Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello learners, I am Dr. Rekha Sharma, former professor, UGC Human Resource Development Center, Rashtrasant Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University, Nagpur. In this video, we will study structure, composition and processing of rice. The objectives of this video are to explain the structure of rice, to discuss the composition of rice, to discuss the processing of rice, to describe parboiling of rice, and to enumerate advantages and disadvantages of parboiling of rice. Rice is one of the oldest and most important food crops in the world. It is a staple food for more than half of the world's population. Rice belongs to the Gramineae or grass family and the tribe Oryzae. Rice is a semi-aquatic plant which can thrive under flooded soil conditions. Rice plant possesses the roots of a dry land crop which are able to pass moisture from roots to stem and oxygen from leaf through the stem to roots. The total area of rice cultivation varied between 350 to 360 million acres globally during the last few years. About 92% of the world's rice crop is produced in the Asian continent, as has been given by FAO STAT. Now, structure of rice. Paddy is a covered caryopsis. The husk, which generally forms about 21%, varies in thickness, and the ease with which it can be separated from the kernel of different types of rice. Rice grain resembles wheat but is smaller than wheat, is flattened laterally and has no ventral furrow. The pericarp with the underlying aileron layer, the starchy endosperm and the germ of the grain on average amount respectively to 6.0, 91.75 and 2.25% of the grain. The aileron layer is generally thicker in the Japonica variety of rice than in the indica rice. The indica rice, maximum development of aileron layer is observed in rice with purple or colored pericarp and in larger, bolder grains than in fine and slender ones. The endosperm is of two types, the glutinous and the non-glutinous, the former being more sticky when cooked than the latter. Varieties of rice are classified according to kernel weight, length and breadth. Now, composition of rice. The chemical composition of rice is influenced to some extent by genetic and environmental factors. The composition of Indian rice is moisture 10.9 to 13.8%, proteins 5.5 to 9.3%, carbohydrates 73.4 to 80.8%, fibers 0.2 to 1%, mineral matters 0.8 to 2.0%. The germ, the pericarp and the aileron layers, which are richer than endosperm in nutrients like protein, minerals and vitamins, are separated from the grain during milling along with the husk. The major carbohydrate of rice is starch, that is about 72 to 75%. The amylase content of the starch varies according to grain type. The longer grained and superior types contain up to 17.5% amylose, while some coarse types are completely devoid of it. Glutinous rice consists almost entirely of amylopectin. Rice also contains some free sugars like glucose, sucrose, and dextrine. In some samples, fructose, galactose, and raffinose are also found. The fiber of rice is the hemicelluloses made up of pentoses, arabinose, and xylose. The protein content of rice is lower than that of wheat. 1/4 of the protein in the whole rice is present in the germ, the aileron layer, and a few layers of cells beneath it. A glutenin, that is originin, is the principal protein of rice. Rice also contains small quantities of albumin, globulin, and prolamins. The proteins of the husked and polished rice have a lower biological value but a higher digestibility than those of rice bran and rice polishings. Parboiling has no effect on the biological value or digestibility of the proteins of polished rice. The nutritive value of rice proteins is of a high order, being superior to that of wheat and other cereal products. The rice proteins are more rich in arginine compared to other cereal proteins. They are deficient in lysine and threonine. Now, minerals. Rice resembles other cereals in its mineral content. Most of the minerals present in rice are located in the pericarp and germ. Polished rice is poor in calcium and iron. Colored types of rice contain more iron than white rice. The phosphorus content is high. About 4% of it is present as phytic acid. Rice also contains some trace elements. Now, enzymes. A number of enzymes present in rice include amylases, proteases, lipases, oxidases, peroxidases, and phenolases. On storage, the oxidase activity of rice remains constant, but the amylase, lipase, and peroxidase activities decrease. The activity of alpha amylase in fresh rice is probably responsible for its stickiness after cooking. The pigments of colored rice are anthocyanins and carotenoids. Some types of rice possesses a characteristic sweet aroma which is recognized when the grain is boiled. Now, milling of rice. Rice milling is carried out either at a small scale or a large scale. Milling of rice consists of cleaning to remove small and large heavy impurities, dehulling and milling, a process which removes the coarse outer layer of bran and germ. Paddy is generally harvested at 18 to 25% moisture and then dried to 12 to 13% moisture either on the farm or at the mill before processing. Paddy on milling yields approximately 20% of hulls, 8% bran, 2% polishings and 70% rice. Now, small scale milling. In case of small scale milling of rice, paddy is placed in a mortar and pounded with pestle either by hands or with the feet. After some time of pounding, the rice is sifted to separate the husk. The pounding process is repeated several times. Rice obtained by this process is called brown rice, rough rice, and contains more amount of vitamins as a proportion of the pericarp, testa, and aileron layers remain on the rice grain. Home pounded rice has a short storage life owing to the high content of fat in the bran, which develops rancidity. Now, large scale milling. Now, the first step is cleaning. Cleaning of paddy comprises the removal of sticks, stones, dust, and other foreign materials. This is accomplished by the use of various separation methods. The paddy is first passed over a screen to remove large particles, straws, and string. After that, it is passed through the second screen, which has smaller perforations than the first screen, to remove weeds, seeds, and sand. The paddy then flows in the form of a thin layer into a channel where an air current removes dead grains and other lighter impurities. Paddy is finally passed through a magnetic separator to remove metal particles. Cleaned paddy is then passed through a machine comprising emery or rubber rolls running into opposite directions, aspirated to remove the husk, and then sieved to separate from the unhusked and broken rice. The rice with the hull removed is commonly known as brown rice or rough rice. Scouring, pearling, and whitening. Gradual removal of germ and bran from the rough rice is known as cowring, pearling, and whitening process. The hulled rice is passed through a series of pearling cones. In pearling cones, rice passes through the narrow annular space left between an inverted cone coated with abrasive revolving in a conical casing made of steel wire cloth. As it passes down, the bran is pushed through the interstices of the wire cloth. The byproduct of the scarring process is known as rice bran, which is used as animal feed. It is also used to extract rice bran oil. The rice grain consisting of inner layers of bran is passed through a polishing machine, often referred to as brush. In this machine, last bran fraction is removed. The grain is now called polished rice. Now, rice products. Food uses of rice can be categorized into 4 groups: direct food use, brewing, seeds, and others. The use of rice for direct food is the highest of the 3 uses. Milled rice, parboiled rice, and brown rice are directly consumed after cooking. Rice and rice products are also used in the manufacture of certain processed foods such as breakfast cereals, soup, baby food, packaged mix, etc. Idli and dosai are common foods in South India, which are prepared from fermented batter of rice and black gram. Fermented beverage, that is sake, is the traditional Japanese rice wine. Now, rice flour. This is made from second heads in pulverizing machines. Rice flour of 9 to 13% moisture content contains 5 to 9% of protein, 0.4 to 1% of fat, and yields 0.4 to 0.7% ash. It is used in biscuit manufacture to prevent sticking, in baby foods as a thickener, and in waffles and pancake mixes as a water absorbent. In India, rice flour is also used in the preparation of vermicelli, papad, sandige or curls, and in a number of other preparations. Now, parched rice. About 4 to 5% of the total supplies of rice in India is converted into rice products, namely parched rice, parched paddy, and rice flakes. Paddy is soaked in water to increase the moisture to about 20%. The moist paddy is puffed by subjecting to sudden heat treatment at 250 to 270 degrees centigrade for 30 to 40 seconds. The husk splits and the rice is puffed. On stirring, rice begins to crackle and swell. Then the contents of the pan are removed and sieved to separate the parched rice from sand. Polished rice is preferred in making parched rice. Parched rice is a crisp product with a grayish to brilliant white color and is sold either salted or unsalted. It is eaten as such or used mixed with buttermilk or milk. Now, parched paddy or puffed rice. Now, expanded rice, that is murmura, puri or muri, is a traditional convenience food widely consumed in India either as such or with jaggery, roasted Bengal gram and shredded vegetables and spices. The product is mostly produced in home or cottage sector by skilled artisans. In the traditional process, the paddy is soaked in water, preferably overnight until saturation, drained and then either steamed or dry roasted in sand for parboiling. The parboiled paddy is milled, salted and again roasted in sand for expansion. Now, flaked rice. Flaked rice is made from parboiled rice. Paddy is soaked in water for 2 to 3 days to soften the kernel, followed by boiling in water for a few minutes. After cooking, the water is drained off and the paddy is heated in a shallow earthen vessel or iron pan till the husks break open, after which it is pounded by a wooden pestle which flattens the rice kernel and removes the husk. The husk is separated by winnowing. Flaked rice is thin and papery and of white color. It can be stored without deterioration for several months. The vitamin content is equal to that of parboiled rice and many preparations are made out of it by adding suitable flavoring and sweetening agents. Now, rice starch. Rice starch granules are quite small and are embedded in a protein matrix. To separate them from protein, broken rice is steeped for 24 hours in 5 times its weight of 0.3% caustic soda solution. The caustic soda treated granules are washed, dried and ground into flour. The flour is then mixed with about 10 times its weight of caustic soda solution. This removes the protein. After 24 hours, the starch that settles down is removed, washed and dried. Rice starch is used in food, especially puddings, ice creams, pie and custard powder. Its principal use in the laundry as a stiffening agent. Rice starch also finds use in cosmetics, in face and dusting powders, as a thickener, as calico printing, in finishing textiles, and for making dextrins, glucose, and adhesives. In Japan, China, and other Eastern countries, rice is employed for the manufacture of alcoholic beverages. Sake, the Japanese national drink, is prepared by fermenting rice with a fungus Aspergillus oryzae. Rice-based beverages are not popular in India. Now, modern convenience foods from rice. Pre-cooked rice is used in rice-based convenience foods where non-rice ingredients are separately packaged and mixed only during heating. Such types of convenience foods provide convenience to the consumer as it requires much less time for preparation. Now, pre-cooked and instant rice or quick cooking rice. Quick cooking rice is pre-cooked and gelatinized to some extent in water, steam, or both. The cooked rice is usually dried in such a manner as to retain the rice grains in a porous condition. This pre-packed quick cooking rice requires just 5 minutes for preparation compared to 20 to 30 minutes in the case of conventional rice cooking. Process for the quick cooking rice involves soaking rice in water and cooking to a moisture content of greater than 60%. The cooked rice is then dried to a moisture content of 14%. The finished product should consist of dry, individual kernels, substantially free of lumps or aggregates, and approximately 1.5 to 3 times the bulk volume of raw rice. Now, modern convenience foods from rice. Alternatively, pre-cooked rice is freeze-dried. The reconstitution property of freeze-dried rice is excellent compared to heat-cooked and dried rice. Retort rice in Japan is made by hermetically sealing cooked non-waxy and waxy rice in laminated plastic or aluminum laminated plastic pouches and retort processing at 120 degrees centigrade under processing. Steamed waxy rice with red beans accounts for 80% of retort rice in Japan. The aluminum laminated plastic pouch is heated directly in hot water for about 10 to 15 minutes, while plastic pouches may be punctured and heated in a microwave oven for 1 to 2 minutes. Many quick cooking rice products varying in texture, bulk volume, appearance, taste, etc. are designed specifically for certain consumer uses depending on the rehydration time and other requirements. Some of the special applications of quick cooking rice are in dry soup mixes, rice puddings, flavored coated free-flowing rice and other dry prepared mixes. Now, canned rice products. Rice is used as one of the ingredients in various canned food products such as soups, baby foods, plain and flavored cooked rice, rice milk puddings, etc. Long grain varieties with high amylose content are suitable for canned rice products. Parboiled rice is also preferred as they retain integrity throughout the canning process. Lacquered tin cans and retortable flexible pouches are the most commonly used packaging material for canned rice products. In soups or other canned foods where the rice must remain in suspension, parboiled rice is cooked enough to prevent settling and then added to the mix. The most successful and well-known canned rice product is pudding. If the rice and milk mixture is prepared separately and combined in the can aseptically, the flavor and texture of the product are preserved. Dye products such as fried rice and rice and beans can also be canned. Now, golden rice. Golden rice is a variety of rice produced through genetic engineering to biosynthesize beta carotene, a precursor of vitamin A in the edible part of the rice. It is intended to produce a fortified food to be grown and consumed in areas with a shortage of dietary vitamin A. Vitamin A deficiency causes xerophthalmia, a range of eye conditions from night blindness to more severe clinical outcomes such as keratomalacia and corneal scars and permanent blindness. Additionally, vitamin A deficiency also increases the risk of mortality from measles and diarrhea in children. In 213, the prevalence of deficiency was the highest in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Although golden rice has met significant opposition from environmental and anti-globalization activists, more than 100 Nobel laureates in 2016 encouraged the use of genetically modified golden rice, which can produce up to 23 times as much beta carotene as the original golden rice. Research for the development of golden rice began as a Rockefeller Foundation initiative in 1982. Now, FSSAI's fortified rice. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, through the regulation of 2016, has started fortification of staple foods for addressing the micronutrient deficiencies in the population. Fortifying rice makes it more nutritious by adding iron, folic acid and vitamin B12 in the post-harvest phase. Rice fortified with the fortificant mix by dusting or coated or extruded fortified kernels mixed with non-fortified rice in a ratio varying between 0.5 to 2%. In extrusion technology, milled rice is pulverized and mixed with a premix containing vitamins and minerals. Fortified rice kernels, that is FRK, are produced from this mixture using an extruder machine. The kernels resemble rice grains. Fortified rice kernels added to non-fortified rice in a ratio ranging from 1:50 to 1:200, ideal being 1:100, resulting in fortified rice nearly identical to traditional rice in aroma, taste and texture. It is then distributed for regular consumption. Now, byproducts of rice. Husk. Paddy husk contains about 22% ash, of which 95% is silica. Because of its high silica content, it is used as an abrasive. Large quantities of husk are used in India as fuel for boilers, kilns and household purposes. Its fuel value is not good, being only about half that of bituminous coal. Other uses of rice husk include roughage for animal feed, insulating material, paper making, etc. Husk contains about 12% pentothens and is thus used for the production of furfural, though it is not as good as oat husk and corn cobs for this purpose. Now, rice bran. The bran is the most nutritious byproduct of rice milling and is used almost exclusively as a feedstuff. It is generally contaminated with husk, which lowers its nutritive value. Rice bran contains about 12% protein and 15% fat. Once separated from the grain, the fat of rice undergoes hydrolysis by lipases to form free fatty acids, which then undergo oxidation by peroxidase, which reduces the nutritive value of bran and causes digestive disturbances. Now, rice polishings. Rice polishings are also rich in nutrients. They are not recovered in sizable quantities in India. They are mostly used as animal feed. Now, rice bran oil. Rice bran makes up only some 2% of the paddy, but it is a valuable source of edible oil and protein-rich animal feed. Rice bran consists of 12 to 15% protein, 15 to 20% lipid, 40 to 50% carbohydrates, 7 to 11% crude fiber, and 6 to 9% ash. The heat generated during milling triggers enzymatic activity, resulting in the hydrolysis of lipids and oxidative changes leading to rancidity. Hence, the bran must be stabilized as quickly as possible after production to prevent rancidity. Stabilization of rice bran can be achieved by dielectric heating treatment with hydrochloric acid and treatment with sodium metabisulfite. Recently, the extrusion cooking process has proved very successful and cheaper. Rice bran oil is extracted with light petroleum spirit, that is N-hexane. The process is thus hazardous. When refined, bleached and deodorized, it is used for salad dressing and as cooking oil. Now, parboiling of rice. The process of parboiling of rice originated in India and has been widely practiced in this country since ancient times. It is estimated that more than half of India's rice crop is parboiled. Parboiling is particularly good in the case of coarse and medium rice of soft structure because such rice suffers excessive breakage when milled raw. The technique for parboiling of rice was developed in India to prevent losses occurring due to breakage during hand pounding, especially the long grained varieties. Now, parboiling of rice. In this technique, paddy is soaked in excess water and later on cooked with its husk, the objective being pre-gelatinizing the starch. Any hairline cracks are sealed due to homogeneous mass of gelatinized starch and thus prevent breakage during milling. The paddy is then drained and dried. During soaking of paddy in cold water for 2 to 3 days, fermentation sets in and off flavors develop in the grain. The molds present in the grain also grow and may produce toxic metabolites. For example, aflatoxin may be produced from Aspergillus flavus. Now, parboiling process developed at CFTRI, that is Central Food Technology Research Institute, Mysore. To avoid bad smells, hot soaking process of the parboiling was developed by CFTRI Mysore. The hot soaking process consists of the following steps. First, soaking paddy in water at 65 to 70 degrees centigrade for 3 to 4 hours. Second, draining of water and steaming of soaked paddy in the same vessel for 5 to 10 minutes. And third, drying of the paddy in the sun or in mechanical dryers. CFTRI also developed the pressure parboiling method. Soaking time is only 30 to 60 minutes and steam is passed through the grain to raise the pressure slowly from an initial 0.28 to 0.70 kilogram per centimeter square to 1.41 to 2.11 kilogram per centimeter square, and this is maintained for 20 to 30 minutes. In this method, the processing time is reduced. Now, PPRC parboiling process, that is Paddy Processing Research Center, Tanjore. It is also known as chromate soaking process. Chromate at the rate of 50 grams per 100 kg paddy is added to the soaking water, which stops germ action and eliminates bad smell. A high temperature short time process was also developed at the PPRC. Steeped paddy is parboiled and dried concurrently by applying high temperature for a short time. Steeped paddy is fed into the sand roaster. The paddy gets completely and uniformly parboiled and its subsequent cooking time is less. Now, advantages of parboiling. Dehusking of parboiled rice is easy and the grain becomes tougher, resulting in reduced losses during milling. Higher yield of head rice from milling because the kernel is more resistant to breakage. Milled parboiled rice has greater resistance to insects and fungi. The nutritive value of rice increases after parboiling because the water dissolves the vitamins and minerals present in the hulls and bran coat and carries them into the endosperm. Part of the scutellum and germ, which are rich in B vitamins, get fixed to the grain and hence losses of B vitamins are less. The water-soluble B vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin and niacin are higher in milled parboiled rice than in milled raw rice. Losses of water-soluble nutrients due to washing of rice are less in parboiled rice compared to raw rice. Parboiling improves digestibility and protein efficiency ratio is higher compared to raw rice. Parboiled rice does not turn into glutinous mass when cooked. Parboiling stabilizes the oil content of the bran. Parboiled rice swells more when cooked to the desired softness. Proteins present on the grain surface are denatured, become insoluble and therefore are not removed during washing and cooking. Now, disadvantages of parboiling rice. It has a bad smell due to prolonged soaking. It has a dark color due to heat treatment. It requires prolonged cooking time and more fuel. Since the oil content is more, the polisher may get choked. The heat treatment may destroy antioxidants, hence rancidity may develop. Due to high moisture content, mycotoxins may be formed. Drying cost is added to the total processing cost, extra capital investment. Now, let us summarize. Rice forms the staple diet for more than half of the world's population and is consumed principally in Asia. rice forms up to 80% of the food intake in some countries. The Indian rice contains moisture 10.9 to 13.8%, proteins 5.5 to 9.3%, carbohydrates 73.4 to 80.8%, fiber 0.2 to 1%, and mineral matter 0.8 to 2%. It is cooked in boiling water and eaten mostly with cooked pulses, vegetables, fish or meat. In India, several types of dishes are prepared from rice, flavored with spices and other ingredients. Other rice preparations include parched rice, puffed rice, and fermented preparations like idli and dosa. Byproducts of rice such as bran, rice polishings, and paddy straw are used for feeding livestock. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, through the regulation of 2016, has started fortification of staple foods for addressing the micronutrient deficiencies in the population. Fortifying rice makes it more nutritious by adding iron, folic acid and vitamin B12 in the post-harvest phase. These are the references. With this, we have come to an end of our lecture on structure, composition and processing of rice. Thank you.